The doors to the Viridian Tea House are open once more. Hello, everyone. It's been several months, and I have a very good reason for it. If you don't follow me on social media, the past couple of months have been kind of a nightmare, but I made it through so far. So I had a cold that morphed into bronchitis, that morphed into pneumonia, that morphed into heart failure and blood clots in my lungs. So I spent over a month not at work and ended up being hospitalized for a week and a half. And I was let out early February. I was discharged early February, and I've been on the mend ever since. Lost a bit of weight and just had some big philosophical moments in my life. Lots of tears, lots of anger and frustration. But now there's a sense of, I'm going to live my life, damn it. Pure and simple. So, been steadily getting my life back, and I realized that it's been months since I did the last reading of one of my books. If you remember, the last one was The Blood Emperor, available through 7 Star Press and through my online shop, viridianteacompany.com. So now I'm going to do another reading, which is, I independently published it myself. And I still can't believe that I wrote it, but most, if not all of my books, I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe I wrote that, but in a good way. I had a image in my head about this older gentleman dressed like an artist sitting on a park bench. And I started writing the story longhand. And I thought, who are you? Tell me your story. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to tell you. And just letting you know that I've got some friends, come on, she's going to write about us. And so the end result is the novella Louis and Estelle, with cover artwork by James W. Bullard. And really, really happy with this story. And like the back of it says, over the course of several days, the lives of a painter named Louis and a baker named Estelle will be forever transformed, thanks to a bake-off hosted by the illustrious Dandelion Baking Society. Secrets will be revealed, romances will blossom, friendships will be destroyed and created, and above all else, there will be dessert. So it's just a light-hearted story that I just wanted to write. And I'm truly grateful that the characters came out and told me their story. So I'm going to read a little bit for you. And my tea is the official Dandelion Baking Society tea blend, which is rooibos, dried blueberries, and dried peaches. So you can get the book and the tea through my online shop, viridianteacompany.com. So if you're ready, let's do this. And by the way, before I go on, I hope you're doing well. I hope that you're not sick. And if you are sick, that you will be feeling better really soon. If there's anything going on in your life that you just feel lost or upset with, I hope that things will change for the better for you soon. I really do. So get yourself a cup of your favorite tea or coffee or water or fruit juice. Sit back for just a few minutes and enjoy a story about Louis and Estelle. And this is dedicated for all the readers, dreamers, and bakers out there. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, if you happen to hear me kind of take deep breaths, so I was put on oxygen, and but I've been steadily going for longer periods of time without it. And so if I'm sniffling a lot, that just means it's from the oxygen. So my nose just stays runny. And also too, this is what the Dandelion Baking Tea Society, Dandelion Baking Society blend looks like, due to that redness of the rooibos. So let me go ahead and I'll let that sit for just a little bit longer. All right, let's begin. The old man sat on a bench, After he received word from his daughter that she would be visiting him soon, he decided to enjoy a little quiet time in the park near his home. He wanted to spend some solitary time before he saw his daughter, merely for the sake of doing it. And honestly, he wasn't sure if he was happy or not about the visit. His daughter, Frances, was an only child, and contrary to popular belief, wasn't a spoiled brat. She had never given her parents moments of worry or grief due to her thick streak of independence that only grew as she grew. When she was little and he couldn't immediately find her with her mother or in her room, he realized that she would be at the nearby library branch, indulging her literary sweet tooth. To her, books were like the finest Belgian chocolates. She was a shy and precocious child, and at times he, more so than his wife and her mother, wanted her to rebel against them. He wanted her to walk right up to them and yell about how she was being treated so unfairly. The old man chuckled as he recalled a memory when she was old enough to get a part-time job. She lucked out and got a job at one of the local bookstores. She coveted the position as though it called for her to protect the Library of Alexandria or something along those lines. Someone gently coughed, breaking up the memory and reducing it to fluffy pieces of threadbare clouds. He looked up to find a woman standing near, but not hovering over him. She wore all black, complementing her dark bronze skin and her long silver dreadlocks. She smiled as she asked, "Excuse me, but do you mind if I join you?" He glanced to his left and right, then comically shrugged his shoulders as a silly grin appeared on his face. "You're just in luck," he said to her as he wiped down the seat with his hand, then wiped his hand against his pant leg. "This very spot has your name all over it." She sat down and placed her oversized bag on her lap, then began to rummage through it. The man tried not to be too curious and wonder what she was looking for, so he focused his sight on her nose. She pulled out a thick burgundy-colored journal and a silver pen, then hugged the journal as though it was a sleeping kitten. She opened the journal and sat down on her lap, then began to write in comfortable silence. "Pardon me for the disruption," he asked, "but are you an author?" The woman turned to face her bench companion and replied in a gentle tone, "No, but I wish I was. I like to come here and watch people, see what they're up to and how they're enjoying the park. Then I write it all down. 3 pages of longhand, no more, no less. Then I'll read it at the end of the day as a reflection of my own life." She paused as if to collect her thoughts, then added, "I consider myself to be a flâneuse." "Ah," the man replied in a tone that let her know that yes, he knew the term. He turned his gaze to several kids playing with a frisbee nearby. He was satisfied with her answer, it seemed. She watched him a moment longer, then resumed writing in her journal. When she had filled up 2 pages, she placed her pen in her journal and said to the man, "I like that." "Sorry, what?" He turned to face her once more. She laughed. "My turn to say sorry. I like the fact that you knew what a flâneuse was. I like that." She beamed a smile at him. "We don't know each other, and yet we've connected on a word. You must be a bibliophile." He laughed. "Ah, yes, that's true. And my daughter is also a published author. I gave her my genes of loving and reading books. However, she's surpassed me, and now I'm learning from her in her part of the world." The woman's eyes grew wide with admiration. "Who's your daughter?" He winked at her and took out his wallet from his pants pocket. From there, he pulled out a photo of the 2 of them during a book signing of hers. He handed the photo to the woman, who instantly recognized her. "She's quite the talented woman of letters. I'm sure you're proud of her," she added as she returned the photo to him. "Before we go any further, my name is Louis, spelled like the city in Missouri, but spoken in the French way." He extended his hand and she shook it firmly, but not with a crushing grip. "I'm Estelle." "What a lovely name." They released each other's hands and then returned to watching the myriad of sights displayed before them. Literally 5 minutes later, Estelle asked, "So, Louis, what do you do?" He looked down at his paint-splattered pants, loose linen shirt, and thick black shoes and replied, "I'll give you 3 guesses." "I'll have to say painter." Louis clapped with glee. "So I guess my next question is, do you still paint or have you given it up for the pastures of retirement?" "Oh, no, I'm still painting. I may be 65, but I have no plans of giving it up. In fact, I hope to die with several brushes in my hand and a streak of lime green paint on my nose. That's quite a detailed scene of death, she replied in a sage-like tone. And you? Let me guess. You make perfumes that are loved and adored by people all over the world. Am I even close? Estelle laughed, and Louis noticed how white and perfect her teeth were. You, my friend, are nowhere close to what I do. I used to be a baker. Well, I guess I still am. I mean, I bake mostly for myself these days. I used to have a bakery but had to give it up, she said with a hint of bitterness at the end. I hope I didn't offend you by asking, he hastily stated, causing her to hold up a hand to silence him. Let me take a quick tea break. Once again, this is Dandelion Baking Society. A rooibos with blueberries and peaches. I immediately get the rooibos, which is kind of a, if you've never had rooibos before, it's like a hay sweet. I mean, you're not drinking hay, but it's just, you don't need to add sugar to this at all. Combined with the peaches and the blueberries, this is a perfect cup for what's going on outside right now, which is a snow day. So that's perfect. All right. No need for that at all, and it's quite all right to ask me such a question. I left because I had a bad case of what they called back then melancholy. She leaned toward him and whispered, depression by today's standards. She straightened her body and stared straight ahead. Louis nodded in understanding. He too had suffered with melancholy after his lovely wife of 30 years killed herself. Ah, yes, he thought, I am too familiar with the indigo-colored monster, the one that seduces you, then leads you down a black hole, with seemingly no way to return to the light. I am truly sorry about your melancholy, Louis offered by way of an apology, because he felt as though there was nothing he could do about it. He couldn't help this woman who went from absolute stranger to possible acquaintance in a short period of time. Actually, me leaving was the best thing I could have ever done for myself, Estelle replied, because I realized something. What's that? I realized, my new friend, that I spent so much time baking what others wanted and demanded from me that not once did I ever bake for myself. I opened the shop because I wanted to share my talent with others, but it soon turned into me churning out the same old for the sake of $1. I stopped enjoying the art of baking. Imagine painting for others, but never what's inside of you. How would that make you feel? Louis didn't need to wonder about such a circumstance because he too had gone through a similar situation. After I graduated from art school with glowing honors, he began in a voice that sounded as though it had aged within minutes. I was sought after by several galleries. I had it, whatever it was, and the galleries demanded all of my it from me. So I painted day and night to create enough supply for the ever-growing demand. Once I finished painting for the day, I would return home to work on my personal projects, things that I did for the sake of just doing them. My time, my space. However, I found that the time actually spent on my work shrank with every breath I took. As the days wore on, the desire to paint at night made my stomach hurt and gave me tension headaches. Soon I stopped painting because I just wanted to rest. I hated the smell of the paints, the feel of the canvases. I know I'm probably sounding melodramatic, but it's the truth. I loathed my passion. I finally gave up and only painted for the galleries, but my heart wasn't in those pieces at all. I felt like a machine cranking out painting after painting, but I knew that all of my work paid my bills and put food on the table. When I got married and later had a baby to take care of, I ignored my needs and funneled it all into the two who shared my life. His voice trailed off as a memory clouded his eyes, sitting at the kitchen table next to his beautiful wife. Him looking into her eyes and seeing a pain there that he couldn't reach. Her looking into his eyes and seeing the exhaustion. Him getting up from his chair to check on their quiet daughter in the room. Him finding the little one quietly reading on the floor, then returning to his wife and finding her head on top of her folded arms on the table as she silently cried. Louis? Louis? He blinked several times, leaving that kitchen far behind him and returning to the park. He turned to find Estelle studying him with some concern. Are you all right? I'm fine. I'm just thinking about choices, he murmured. Estelle placed her journal and pen back in her bag, then placed a hand on top of his. Seeing her hand on his didn't register for a moment. Then when it did, he felt his heart beat a little faster. She removed her hand when she felt the quiet tremble. Perhaps I'm being hasty, but I'm glad I met you today. Estelle wanted to let him know that she understood the dark clouds that temporarily crossed his face. I'm glad I met you as well. His skin tingled where she touched him, and he wanted to feel her hand on his again, even if for a second. When was the last time he felt such contact? Estelle stood up and gripped her bag with both hands. I need to dash, but I'm taking part in a bake-off tomorrow at the Art Center. Starts at 11 a.m. and ends at 4 with all the baked goods you can eat. I'd love it if you and your daughter could stop by. Sounds like a lovely date, a lovely way to enjoy a day. Count me in. They beamed at each other, then she turned and walked away. Louis watched her and noticed that she walked with a confident and steady tone. He got up and walked off in the opposite direction. Not as confident, but just as steady. Another tea break. So just quickly, a lot of times, many of my characters are inspired by people that I've known or myself. And I have to say that with Louis and Estelle, there's nobody in this book that, there are some experiences that the characters go through that I've actually gone through. And like I tell people, but nobody's really taken me up on it, maybe like one or two people. But if you happen to purchase a copy of Louis and Estelle and you read it and you like it or you don't, and you want to know what was real and not, send me an email or come visit and I'll be more than happy to tell you. The good, the bad, and the really embarrassing. I really don't mind showing off. Well, not really showing off, but I don't mind talking about what I've gone through. So, all right, a little bit more and then I'm gonna stop. Let's see, we're gonna skip ahead to, okay. Estelle woke up to the sounds of her next door neighbor having sex. She groaned as she placed a pillow over her head, hoping to drown out the moans and the repeated, "Oh yeah, baby," that forced themselves through the walls. In being a feminist, she had no qualms when it came to enjoying sex. Making love, making whoopee, fucking, the beast with two backs, whatever you want to call it. However, it was not cool to hear your neighbor grunting and moaning as he entertained his girlfriend, a delightfully funny young woman who worked as an architect. Estelle curled into a ball as tightly as possible and held her breath as they finally finished with whimpers and declarations of love to each other. Estelle took the pillow off her head and released the tension from her body. She stared at the ceiling and waited to see if there would be a round two. Thankfully, her neighbor owned a small coffee house nearby and knew that he would soon be leaving around 7 a.m. She rolled over on her side to check the time on her clock, 6:30. She smiled, then got up to prepare for her day as well. As she moved through her apartment, she noticed that her neighbor was quiet when it came to everything else in his day. The only time when he was loud was when Shauna stopped by and they had sex. Ah, love. By the time 7:15 rolled around, Estelle was dressed and thinking about going to the coffee house for her usual cup of Ethiopian coffee with a blueberry scone. She grabbed her messenger bag, slung it across her chest, and walked out of the apartment to catch the elevator. Estelle lived in a high-rise that was deemed to be an historic landmark since it had been built in the 20s. In the 80s, a development company wanted to bulldoze the building down to build some cheaply made apartments for the young professionals who had moved to the city in a rush. Thankfully, the occupants of the building immediately shut down that nonsense. Estelle was one of those who lent her voice of opposition against such a horrible plan. And so, the high-rise was saved and soon after declared an historic landmark to keep anyone else from trying to do anything to it. Estelle caught the elevator down to the Art Deco design front lobby. She walked outside to the beautiful morning and decided that, yes, she would grab a cup of coffee and a blueberry scone, and possibly offer a knowing grin to her neighbor. After her light breakfast and some reading time, she had decided not to chide her neighbor for being so loud in bed and instead offered a nice smile. Estelle decided to visit one of the art museums in the city. Thanks to being a member for over 10 years, she loved the privilege of being able to visit anytime she wanted to. The museum staff knew her well, and whenever they saw her, they always welcomed her with smiles, some backdoor gossip, and much laughter. The museum was the latest place to house an exhibit featuring the work of a well-known African-American artist who later moved to France because of the abhorrent racism she experienced in the United States in the roaring 1920s. Okay, let's jump a little bit. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Great way to end the reading session. Okay. Estelle took her time in reviewing each painting, all the while trying to determine what made her paint such pieces of art. Did she ever regret moving to Paris and eventually becoming Jean-Claude's lover? I really am sorry for jumping around. Sorry. She had heard of so many Black people who left America for France because the French would not treat them as second-class citizens or animals. They would be treated like human beings. When Estelle finally finished going through the entire exhibit, she felt an early second wind coursing through her body. She checked the time and noticed that 3 hours had passed. Just then, her bag began to vibrate. Estelle pulled out her phone and noticed a text message from a man she didn't know. "Hello there! Before you wondered, I received your number from Adrian. She says hi, by the way. Anyway, this is Paul Martin, president of the Dandelion Baking Society. Perhaps you've heard of us." She had indeed heard of him and the society. It was an elitist and snobby organization involving baking. It was also the one group she'd been trying to become a part of for quite some time. She read on. "Your name has been spoken of for years within our group, and yet no one knows why you're not a member. Therefore, I would like to extend to you an offer to not only participate in our Dandelion Baking Off tomorrow at the Phillips Arts Center, but also to extend to you a formal invitation to join our illustrious organization. Please contact me at 372-9342, and let's talk." Estelle wanted to scream with joy, but instead briskly walked out of the museum and back into the sunny day. She glanced around, wondering where to go next rather than just home, then decided to take a walk to the park. She crossed the street and then dialed Paul back once she had reached the trail leading to the park and away from the rush of cars. "Hello, Estelle?" "Hello, Mr. Martin. How are you? Got your text message." "Oh, for goodness sake, call me Paul, please. And I'm so glad to hear your voice. Adrian and I had a lovely lunch the other day, and as we discussed the bake-off, she immediately thought that you would be perfect to be a part of not only the event, but also our organization. In fact, she's the one who's been yammering at me about you. No offense." "None taken. Well, it is quite an honor, Paul. I'm flattered." "About damn time," she thought as she turned left on the path. "Fantastic. Adrian told me about your infamous madeleines, and I have to admit that I used to purchase them in your bakery. What was it called? Chips and dough?" "Jam and dough," she replied with a laugh. "Close enough." "Oh, I'm so sorry. In any case, I still feel terrible that we never extended an invitation to you, Estelle. You were certainly Dandelion Baking Society material, but we can talk about that later. Are you interested in the bake-off?" Estelle replied that she was, to which Paul filled her in on all the details and advised for her to make those delicious madeleines. By the time she noticed an older white man dressed like a somewhat out-of-date artist sitting alone on a bench, she had agreed to participate in the bake-off. She hung up the phone and glanced around in trying to locate a spot to sit, yet her eyes kept landing on him. Something about him sitting there made her want to talk with him. She placed the phone in her bag and walked straight toward him. So you kind of get a little idea of what Estelle was going through before she met up with Louis. So that's just a small sample of Louis and Estelle, a novella by me. And you can order both the book and the tea blend through my online shop, viridianteacompany.com. And I'll even sign the book and whatnot too. So I hope you've enjoyed this little reading. And once again, you know, I've been planning to do these like a reading every month, but due to being sick and being hospitalized, kind of need to take a break. But hopefully I'm on the up and up, so I will be doing these once a month. I'm not sure which book I'm going to do next month, but you know, just let it be a surprise. So until next time, take care of yourself and each other, raise your teacup high, and enjoy your life. Very much so. I'll see you really soon. Bye for now.